Hi everyone, I'm Kaelum Hassler. This is Martin Angst, and today we're going to be answering questions and talking about some new developments on the Kickstarter page.
Yes, hi everyone. First of all, again, thanks so much for the amazing support so far. Today we're actually going to announce our stretch goals that we will bring live right after the live stream today. And it will take us a moment. We will pull them up and bring them into the screen, and then we'll start talking about them. Before then, we already have a few questions here in the chat, and we'll go right into them while Hans will pull up the stretch goals on the other end. So let's get started here, Kaelum. This is a great question for you, I think, talking about not the need, but no need for a spoil board from JKA on YouTube. Why don't you get started talking about that?
Alrighty. So the Optic, this is the Optic, comes with a magnetic cutting mat that snaps and closes to the machine, and then also pops open and then unfolds. Another cool thing about the cutting mat is that you can magnetically pop it off by lifting up the machine at an angle and then removing it from the bottom of the machine. And so this is what a used cutting mat looks like. And so if you notice, there are some engraved away sections of the anodization that is on top of here, but you can still clearly see the grid and the graduations on the cutting mat, making it easy and continually easy to line up your designs and ensure that they're calibrated and coordinated with the machine and the machine's layout. This cutting mat is completely laser-proof, so if you are going to be using the cutting mat, you don't need to put any sort of spoil board or anything underneath it because the cutting mat is made of aluminum and spring steel, and our laser head does not have the ability to get through either one of those materials or damage the surface underneath. The cutting mat also comes with soft touch felt all along the bottom of it, so you can feel totally fine placing it down on any work surface, knowing that you're not going to scratch it, damage it, impart anything onto your surface. Yeah, and so this means that you can just place your plywood or your paper or whatever you're going to be laser cutting directly down onto this cutting mat right here. You can line it up to your certain grid lines and then line it up to those certain grid lines in lightburn so that your designs line up. And then you're ready to go. You don't need any sort of wasteboard or sacrificial material if you're using the cutting mat.
A couple things to point out is we have a few really great videos about how you can align your work object with the cutting mat on YouTube. You can just visit our channel and check out the content that we have up there. Kaelum, I think the question might also go in the direction of when you use the infinite work area feature, how do you ensure that your surface below is okay?
That's a great question. So we actually talk about it a little bit in the video. We'll make sure to put the link down in the description after this is live. So we have a video showing the entire process step by step in both software and in hardware of how you would index your design across multiple cutting areas. And in that case, you would be using it without the cutting mat because you'd be setting the optic directly down on top of the material. And so for that, we recommend putting down a piece of chipboard or plywood or some sort of sacrificial material underneath all of the material that you're going to be cutting. So if I wanted to set the optic on top of a piece of plywood to cut something larger than the optic, or if I was going to, I guess that's really the only use case for setting it down on top of the material where you'd be cutting through it. Then below that piece that I'm working with, I would put another piece of plywood or a piece of chipboard or a piece of thick paper if you tune in your settings correctly. Just something to absorb the excess energy after the laser passes through the material to make sure you don't damage your table or whatever it's sitting on. You basically just need to use something like the cutting mat for instances when you're not using the cutting mat.
And I just shared what Kaelum was talking about. We have two videos actually showing that really well. I shared one YouTube link. I'll share the other one in the chat as well so that you can go and check those out later. And we have another question that we'll get to right before we actually will jump into the stretch goals. So let's check out what we got here. Real quick, Tina Rogers, the pricing is available on the Kickstarter that is live right now. You can find that. I'll put it in the chat as well. If you look for Rendyr, the Optic portable laser cutter on Kickstarter, but I'll add that here in the chat as well in a moment. Then the other thing that we have here is a question: can it engrave on metal, Kaelum?
Yes. So the Optic can engrave on pretty much any metal that we've tried, either directly or using some sort of post-process. So the metals that you can engrave on directly are stainless steel and aluminum, but metals that require a post-process, that would be something like brass or copper. And so with the exact same precision of cutting and engraving that you would expect from wood and paper, you are able to get that exact same accuracy and fidelity when engraving with metals.
Great. We'll take a short break from the questions and ask Hans to pull in the first image of the final stretch goal in a series of stretch goals that we're going to announce today. And once it's up here on the screen, we'll start talking about it. The one that says stretch goal, or that has the Rotary module text at the top.
Oh, Martin.
All right, guys. While this is up, let's have Kaelum say a few words about the Rotary module and what's happening with this stretch goal, and how you might be able to get a Rotary module as an add-on for the Optic portable laser cutter.
Yeah, so this is something that we're incredibly excited about and something that we've been thinking about and working on for a long time, sort of in parallel to working with the Optic. So one of the things about the machine that we haven't shown yet is, Martin, maybe could we go back to the video real quick?
You need to ask Hans.
Would we go? Awesome. And so one of the things that we have built into the Optic is actually an expansion port right back here on the back of the machine. And what that allows you to do is plug in any number of accessories. And the one that we're going to be talking about today is our Rotary module. And so what this would allow you to do is, in combination with the Z-axis expansion kit or the work area expansion kit, you'd be able to lift up the gantry of the machine. You could plug in your Rotary module, and then you could put something like this in here. This is just a Yeti. I guess in this case it's sort of a koozie. But you would be able to place this in the machine right here, and then you could engrave your own design or your own artwork onto it. Similar to how Yeti themselves actually does it. This is an engraving process, the way that they use to market here. But we're just super excited about this because it allows you to work with any round object. So, a baseball bat, water bottle, wooden dowels, really anything that is round and under about 4 inches, I believe, is the maximum supported diameter of the module. And so, yeah, we're really excited about it, and we really hope that we reach the stretch goal, because we would love to put this into production as well to expand the capabilities of the machine.
We will show you a few more images of the Rotary module here in a moment, but there are 3 other stretch goals that will go ahead of the Rotary module, and we will have, and this will be on the campaign page very soon, a stretch goal at $700,000, which is a master class for designing for laser cutting. So in addition to all of our technical how-to tutorials for how you use the Optic and really take advantage of its features, we also want to offer you tutorials and almost an educational class for how you can get the most out of laser cutting as a process and in terms of designing with laser cutting. If we reach that goal, we will have the chance to add that capacity to create that course for you earlier, so that all of you can get started with the very best material, and that will include all kinds of pre-made projects that you can download and plug and play, create, but you can also at the same time really learn about the ins and outs of laser cutting. The next one at $800,000 will be an extra washable pre-filter for every optic that we will include for free. And that one we will, you can see here on the screen right now. Kaelum will talk about that here also in a moment. He's grabbing one right now to explain a little bit more how this works and what's going on with the pre-filter that you might not have seen yet on the campaign page, but that is in addition to the existing filter cartridge that you've seen. So Hans, I think we're good to switch back to the video. Yeah.
So this is what, here we go. This is what the Optic's pre-filter looks like, and it goes in front of the regular filter, and this is washable with water. So this is a reusable pre-filter, which helps to extend and prolong the life of the replaceable filter cartridges that go in the side of the machine.
Okay, so that will help you. Basically, you will have 2 pre-filters if we reach that stretch goal, and that will allow you to wash one, let it dry, and use the other one in the meantime. The next one will be an extra cleaning kit refill for every Optic pledge. And why don't we talk a little bit about the standard maintenance that is required of any laser cutter, but how easy it is actually with the Optic to get it clean and ready to go again.
Totally. Yeah, so with any laser cutting system, or really any CNC machine, you have to keep them clean for them to continue to operate at full capacity, full speed, full precision. And the Optic is no different. And so during the laser cutting process, you generate a lot of debris and residue that can get on the cutting mat. Like you see here, there's some of this yellow residue that's left over from cutting plywood. And then that will build up on certain surfaces, both on the cutting bed and then on the actual laser module itself. And so we provide what we have found the best to keep these surfaces clean, which is melamine foam, otherwise known as magic eraser. And so that, with a little bit of water, keeps all of the metal surfaces perfectly clean. It removes all of the residue left behind from laser cutting really easily. And then there is also the swabs and the laser cleaning solution, which help you to clean the laser optics. So the Optic just has that single lens on the inside of the laser module that you need to keep clean. Unlike traditional laser cutters where there's multiple mirrors and lenses to keep clean, there's just this single laser module right here. And these swabs, which you use to just swab the single lens inside of the laser module, and then you're ready to put it back inside of the machine. And so the clean kit refill would just be an extra bag of these swabs and an extra bottle of the cleaning solution, just extending how much runway you have before you run out. And then in the cleaning kit as well, you'll also notice this sort of awkwardly shaped Scotch-Brite pad, which is just a piece of laser cut Scotch-Brite and laser cut acrylic, which make it really easy to clean out the spring steel hinges, which go right in between the ACM panels. And so what that does is it just clears out any sort of residue or dust or debris that gets caught down in there during the laser cutting process.
And then basically it's all ready to go, right?
Yep.
And they can start with the next cut. Kaelum, how often, did you say that, how often someone would want to clean the lens here in the module?
Yeah, So if you notice on the laser module, I have the bottom end cap removed so that you guys can see into here a little bit. And then in here, you'll see this temperature sensor right here. And then there's these two fans right here. So when the laser beam is shooting down through the bottom of the module, I think Hans is going to try and get a better view on it. So when the laser is shooting down in between the two fans, it's actually protected by an air curtain, keeping the optics free of the debris. I think it's all good, Hans. Cool.
Good.
Thanks. And so that means that it keeps it pretty clean under most use cases. So if you're doing something like paper or you're engraving, well, so let's just talk about engraving metal. So if you're going to be engraving metal with the Optic, you pretty much never need to clean the lens because you're not really generating very much debris at all that would have the ability to coat the lens or keep the lens from working its best. But if you are all the time cutting like 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch plywood, if that is what you're doing, then you're going to need to clean the lens, I would say, every 1 or 2 operations. And so it's just sort of a range, but we're doing testing right now to figure out how often you'll need to clean it under different scenarios.
Okay, and
yeah.
So a couple of things. The last two that I mentioned, the extra washable pre-filter and the cleaning kit refill, those will both be included then for free in all of the Optic pledges. So everyone who gets an Optic reward will, if we reach these stretch goals, also have a extra cleaning kit refill and an extra washable pre-filter so that you can keep going and create all kinds of projects without stopping. And the masterclass will actually be available to anyone, any backer, whether you do an Optic reward or whether you just do an high five. We will make the masterclass designing for laser cutting available to everyone. And finally, back to the Rotary module, and I already saw in the chat that we have some questions. Perhaps, Hans, we could pull up some of the other images here as well and then talk about that more. That will be available as an add-on, similar to the work envelope expansion kit, similar to our exhaust module. And what the stretch goal simply allows us to do is that we will earlier be able to release the Rotary module add-on, because reaching that funding goal will give us the opportunity to build our team out sooner and really get this really exciting add-on to you faster too. Here.
And also to be able to manufacture it at scale so that we can get a proper number of Rotary module units prepared from our manufacturing partners.
Okay, so let's tackle a question here that we have for the Rotary, which is asking, will non-cylindrical objects be supported in the future? Many water bottles are slightly conical, including Yeti tumblers from Eric Felton.
Yeah, so we're testing out multiple solutions right now, but the slight curvature of glasses and water bottles has seemed to pose no issue so far with the Rotary module because of how long the focal length of the laser is, meaning that throughout the slight difference in Z height of the cup or the glass, the point of the laser is fine enough throughout that whole span as to where the engravings come out the same fidelity at the top of the cone and also then at the bottom of the cone. So far there's been no issues to slightly conical objects. Works totally fine. But if there's anything specific that you would like us to try, we're always down to do that.
Great. We are getting a question in from Haley N. Asking if it's an add-on or included. Real quick also, I just put in the chat that we'll briefly prioritize questions that are related to the stretch goals that we just discussed, and then we'll get back to the other questions to keep it focused on what we just showed you. So is it an add-on or included? Let's see. I think you mean the Rotary module, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Kaelum, why don't you talk about that too?
So first and foremost, we are prioritizing getting you guys the optic and your optic as quickly as possible. And so that's why the rotary module is going to be an add-in, so that we don't have to get all of the rotary modules done before we're able to ship out all of the optics. So the rotary module is going to be an add-in that you will have the ability to get, but that will be separate from the main machine so that we can spend all of our efforts first on getting the machines out as quickly as possible, and then our resources will go into then producing optics in parallel to producing these rotary modules.
And maybe
our
we can
first
show.
priority is just getting the optics to the backers first.
Let's show again how the machine already accommodates add-ons, and it basically is very modular for any future additions as well. So Kaelum will talk a little bit more about what's potentially coming in the future, because we've really thought about it already and it's not an afterthought.
Yeah. So we designed the optic from the beginning to really be a modular system that has the ability to adapt and expand according to the user's needs. And you'll see one of those design decisions back here on the back end cap. There's actually this expansion port, which is similar to like the back of an iPad Pro. It has those pogo pins on it. This is a pogo pin connector as well, which the first use case of this is going to be to attach the rotary module. But we have other things that we are working on, other accessories that would use this port as well, allowing you a lot of different uses with just the singular machine, and then multiple different accessories for different use cases. So that is sort of the first thing. But then if you lift up the machine, and we're going to pop it up off of the cutting mat, you will notice that the cutting mat is attached using these magnetic snaps right here. And there are matching magnetic snaps on the bottom of the machine. And so that is actually how we attach the height expansion kit. So when you use your height expansion kit, you'll have, they're basically 1-inch shims and 3-inch shims, but they magnetically snap directly onto these points right here. And then you're able to set the machine on top of them, and then they magnetically snap into those points as well. And then for this side of the cutting mat, on the inside of this piece of aluminum, there's magnets. That's what allows it to snap to the side of the optic right here. And so by utilizing those same magnets, the expansion kit on the right side, or I guess the left side, snaps down to the cutting mat perfectly. And so that means you can use the Z-axis expansion kit and know for a fact that your cutting mat and your grid is still perfectly lined up with, is still calibrated with the optic 0, so that when you line things up on the cutting mat, they will continue to line up even when you have the different Z heights.
Great. You just answered a question from Dave Flegel. How do you raise the optics to fit thicker items?
Yeah.
And so glad you asked, and glad you already started talking about it.
Yeah, so depending upon the thickness of your workpiece that you're going to be working with, you can either decide to use the 1-inch risers, the 3-inch risers, or both. So they are stackable. So if you wanted to do something really, really tall, you could get, well, I mean, you can get however many, you can get as tall as you want using the expansion kit. So if you're doing just cutting boards that are fairly thick, about 1.5 inches thick, then you could use the 1-inch set of risers. If you were engraving water bottles, then I might suggest using the 3-inch risers and the 1-inch risers in combination, so that you can get the rotary module and the water bottle in there. And if you're doing something really tall, then you could go ahead and use 2 of the 3-inch riser kits to be able to engrave something really big, but still with the precision grid of the cutting mat. So
now, while we talk about that, let's real quickly mention how the optic completely functions without the cutting mat too. So you could theoretically, or technically right now, engrave a logo right here on this butcher block table without a problem. So you don't have to raise it to fit this table in. You just place the optic right on top.
Yeah, the expansion kit is really great for things that are tall this way, but relatively small in the XY that you don't have the ability to set the optic on top of. So if it was a really big cutting board, you could just set the optic directly up on top of the cutting board to engrave on top of it. But if it was something sort of like small and thick, like a big thick wallet or something, then it may be Yeah, something like this. Then it may be advantageous to use the expansion kit so that you can still line it up with the grid lines on the cutting board and then on the cutting mat, and then be able to precisely engrave on your surface.
Great. So one more question I saw here that is about whether this work envelope expansion kit is included, or also how much it will cost. And you can see that on Kickstarter right now. You can either add it on directly on Kickstarter, or you can add it on later in our post-campaign survey that we will do once the campaign is over.
And again, the reason that these are separate items instead of being included is that we want to prioritize getting the main module, the Optic, done as quickly and efficiently and shipped out to you guys and all of the backers as quickly as possible, so that you guys can start making. Yeah, so that's why they are separate accessories, so that we can prioritize getting the machines out first.
Great. So we will have, I think we covered all the questions related to the stretch goals. One thing that's really important, we are super close to the first stretch goal, the masterclass designing for laser cutters. And so far, it's been really awesome. We've been making great progress with the campaign, and it would be amazing to have your help to help us get to the stretch goals and really benefit all together from that. We think because of so many questions that came in for the Rotary module, it would be amazing if we can get that to you sooner than planned. And it'd be incredible to have your help to share it with your networks if you haven't already been doing that, or keep doing it. With that, we'll get to some of the other questions that I see here in the chat. We'll keep going in the format that we've been doing it. I'll read them out, and Kaelum might answer some of them.
Maybe. We'll see.
So let's see. I'm scrolling all the way up here because we've left out some. And let's talk about availability of replacement parts. Reggie Polk asks how we intend to support the Optic, or customers, I guess, whether there will be email, phone support, human support. It's a multifaceted question. Let me, before Kaelum gets into some of the more technical details around what replacement parts you can get and so on, talk about our support that's going to be available. Of course, we want you to be extremely happy. The very first thing that will be there for you is a very well curated technical how-to video series as a manual, plus non-videos that will really help you understand every feature of the machine, small troubleshooting things, and so on, and get you quite far. But then beyond that, we will of course have email support. We've already answered so many emails from all of you who shared your questions with us, and we will keep doing that. We are planning on building up a team that's even larger than us to really handle any of your questions. And as to humans, yes, there will be humans behind that. If that makes sense, we will definitely send you an email response saying that we've gotten your email and so on. That might be automated, but then we will get into processing those emails and getting back to you and really helping you be successful. But Kaelum, why don't you show what replacement parts will be available, and how easy it will be to really exchange them.
That sounds great. So as Martin was saying, as soon as the campaign is over and the campaign has been fulfilled on Rendyr.com, there will then be a forum and knowledge hub and a shop where you would be able to purchase replacement parts if it is outside the warranty. And the Optic comes with a 1-year warranty on it. And so the parts that you could replace is, well, really any part of the machine. So as you saw, you can replace the cutting mat super easily. You can replace the laser module really easily. You can replace the shield really easily. So all of the major components you can either remove toollessly or with minimal tools. And so if a replacement part won't work, if you need to send the machine back, it's really easy. You'll just fold up the Optic and then use the box that it came with and then ship it back to us for repairs or potential replacements, and then we will ship it back to you. So yeah.
Kaelum, can you talk more about how the power supply works? And it's USB-C,
Yeah.
but what do you need? What kind of outlet?
Yeah.
We had a question from, let me see here, Tayfan too.
Man,
just explain sort of how much power you need.
Yeah, let me grab a couple cables.
How you would connect it.
Thank you, Robert.
Okay, so Kaelum is grabbing that equipment. I think I surprised him a little bit. Keep the questions coming. There is some information also that we have, of course, online that might answer these questions already. And I will try to share them in the chat while Kaelum talks about the power here.
Yeah, so the Optic comes with a tiny, well, I mean, physically tiny, 100-watt USB Type-C power supply. And so if you're familiar with the way that sort of a lot of newer laptops charge, this is very similar. So the newest MacBook, for instance, it comes with a charger very similar to this. And then the machine comes with two cables. It comes with a 6-foot USB Type-C to Type-C cable. It's 90-degree on one side, and it is straight on the other side. And so that means that you can either plug it into the machine like this, if that works better for your setup, or you can plug in the machine going straight out like that. If that's better for your setup, you can use the 6-foot or the 3-foot for either power or data, depending upon how close you are to an outlet, where your computer is relative to the machine. And so we tried to build in as much modularity into the power and data system that we can. And so you don't have to use the 100-watt power supply that comes with the machine. You can use pretty much any USB Type-C power supply that has the rated output. Let me just grab another one as an example.
And Kaelum, the power supply will ship, of course, with the Optic, but you could use any others
one that I said right there,
that have the same output as well, right?
Yeah, and so here's another example of a power supply that would work. This is a multi-port one, and each one of these ports is capable of delivering 100 watts. So a charger like this would also work with the Optic. You just need to make sure that it is capable of 20 volts at 5 amps. But past that, any USB Type-C power supply would work. So one like this would work with a dedicated cable. So this one would work, and then, of course, the one included with the machine. Same deal with the cables. You just need to make sure that the cables that you're using with the machine support 100-watt power delivery. There's a ton of different cables of all different lengths, sizes, and shapes available. And so that's why we decided to use USB Type-C for both power and data to make it really easy to talk to the machine and power it.
Great. And of course, the cables and the power supply come included with the Optic in the box. You don't have to get your own. But if for whatever reason you wanted to get different cables, that is a very easy thing to do. Kaelum, why don't we talk very quickly here about the different types of acrylic that you can cut and what the difference is between clear acrylic, transparent colored acrylic, and so on.
Yeah.
We had some questions here in the chat.
Yeah, so the Optic uses a laser that is within the visible spectrum. And so that means that the darker color your material is, the faster it is going to cut and engrave. And so that's why the Optic can process the thickest material that the Optic can, or the thickest plastic that you can cut with the Optic is like 8mm black acrylic. And then you can cut and engrave pretty much any color except for clear and white, not white, except for clear, and that you can just engrave. But every other color, even tinted acrylic, like this shield right here, that works perfectly well. And so this is just an example of a piece that has been cut and then engraved with the Optic. This is black acrylic, and so we did some engraving on it as well, and then we
can zoom in here a
cut
little bit. Yeah, BL wanted to see an example of acrylic here, and Kaelum, can you give us an estimate for how long it took to engrave and cut this?
Oh, the engraving, I believe we did about 300 DPI with this. So I think it took about like 5 or so minutes to do the engraving, and then probably about another minute to cut it out. So probably about 6 minutes in total.
Okay, let's move on from the acrylic question to, let's see what we got.
You can also cut other plastics as well. Like polypropylene, acetyl, Delrin. Yeah, so a bunch of different plastics.
Let's talk about this question here. I need to find again who asked the question, but I think I have it right here. Lorian, it won't have a subscription service like Glowforge, will it? Is the question. And also, yeah, thanks for the Q&A. Thanks for letting us know that you're enjoying it. So let's talk about that there is no subscription service to the software and what lightburn is and how it looks like, right?
Yeah.
We have a bunch of tutorials in our YouTube videos, but you can talk a few things about lightburn and why we chose it.
Yeah, so the reason that we chose lightburn to use with the Optic is that was and is and for the foreseeable future will be the best software for laser cutting, hands down. And so lightburn works with tons of different laser cutters. It's a universal solution from K40s all the way up to industrial laser cutters. And so it allows you to do some vector graphics work inside of it. You can trace images inside of it. You can directly drag in images from Google or from whatever design software you created the designs in. It's capable of processing vector files, image files, and you can actually do a lot of design work within lightburn itself, which is really helpful as well. And the version of lightburn that comes with the Optic is actually sort of slightly different, slightly augmented from the stock version of lightburn to ensure that it is perfect for the Optic. So you'll be getting a license of lightburn with the Optic that has a custom set of settings in it, a custom set of preferences, a custom material library, and a custom art library, ensuring that right out of the box, the Optic is ready to work with lightburn. But then if you had a different laser cutter or if you bought a different laser cutter, you can still use lightburn. You just add a different machine, and then all of your data for that machine is stored within lightburn as well. So we really wanted to use a software that is the best option for laser cutting, but then also keep it sort of open for whatever the uses are or for whatever future uses may be of the users.
Great, and let's talk about Fusion 360 for a moment too, and then maybe answer Jim's question here about any plans for an Illustrator plugin. And get into Fusion first and talk about Illustrator perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you're a user of Fusion 360, you can just post directly from Fusion 360 directly to the Optic, and then you just need a G-code sender, which you could also do from lightburn. So in Fusion 360, all you need to do in order to start manufacturing your parts with the Optic is go to the Manufacturing tab, same if you were machining parts. And then in your post-processor, you would then select the Optic as the machine that you're post-processing for, and then you're able to generate code for the Optic directly in Fusion 360. About the Illustrator plugin, we currently do not have an Illustrator plugin right now because lightburn can just take AI files. So you can just stop your design in Illustrator and then just open it up in lightburn, and then you're ready to send it. So we don't really see the need or the use case for an Illustrator plugin. And then that's pretty much the same for any image or vector software. You can just directly bring your, you can just take your PSD from Photoshop and just save it and then open it up in lightburn. There's no sort of exporting or post-processing, or there's really no friction between the programs when you're using something like Photoshop or Illustrator. You literally just can open it up as is directly in lightburn.
Great. And we just posted in the chat a video that shows our filtration system from another angle.
It runs on Mac. Yes, it runs on Mac.
Yes, that was an exclamation mark from Reggie Polk. Right, it does run on Mac, Linux, Windows, pretty much those major operating systems, any of them. And Z-Lobby asked about the filtration system. Check out the link that I just posted in the chat. It really shows how well the filtration system works. Let's talk a little bit about the upgrades that we've been able to implement since Tested had the Optic last summer.
Oh, yeah. Cool. The Optic's filtration system captures all of the fumes created during the laser cutting process. It does that now, and it has for a while. But of course, with everything, that was not always the case. The Optic is complete now and ready for larger scale production. But there were tons and tons of prototypes of the machine that came before the machine. And so when we had the ability to work with Tested, we sent them a pre-production prototype that we knew and that they knew was not fully done yet. That's why their video isn't a full review. It's more of just a first look and getting their thoughts and their insights about the machine. And that was really an incredible experience. But again, what they had was a prototype, and they'll tell you that, and we'll tell you that it wasn't done yet. And now it is. And we are incredibly excited for Tested to get their hands on a finished one with the rest of the backers.
Fantastic. And let's address 2 more questions that I have noted down here from people in the chat. Thanks so much for all the great questions today. It's exciting to answer them live. And if you want to keep them coming, just email us at hello@Rendyr or Martin@Rendyr or Kaelum at Rendyr. We'll make sure to get to you as well. So here we go. One more question was if there will be any options for stronger heads or lasers in the future. And Kaelum already talked quite a bit about the modularity of the Optic. Do we have a module in there right now or handy that would allow you to show how simple that will be?
Yeah. So in order to replace the laser module, you remove the shield. And then there is this little cable right here with a connector on the end of it. And then that connects directly to the side of the laser module like that. And then let's see if I can do this upside down. Then there is a little lever as a part of the x-axis. And then when you pull down that lever, that locks the laser module. Did I do it? Yay! That locks the laser module onto the x-axis, and then it can, move side to side and move this way. So as you see, you don't need any tools or anything to be able to fully electrically and mechanically remove the laser module from the Optic. And that does 2 things. It makes it really easy to clean the laser module. It makes it really easy to ship the laser module if it is damaged for whatever reason. And it also makes it really easy to put different modules inside of the Optic, whether it is a high-powered laser module or some other modules that we are working on. And so about the laser power, the Optic is currently the most powerful solid-state laser cutter available. But if that is not enough for you guys, and I guess, isn't really enough for us either, because we are still and continually developing newer and newer lasers and laser modules to use with the Optic. And we hope to eventually have even higher power diodes, or not diodes, higher power laser modules available. We currently don't really have any more information on that at this point, but it's incredibly easy to remove and replace the Optic's laser head.
Great. Well, let's talk about one more question before we wrap up for today. And since the response has been so great, we're going to consider having another Q&A here soon. But for today, we'll finish with this question here, which is, when will the rewards ship on the Kickstarter campaign? And that is relatively simple and straightforward, available on the Kickstarter campaign page. When you go onto the rewards section it will tell you under the reward that it has a specific ship date, or not ship, but delivery date, to be more specific. It says for the current reward, which is the early bird, that the estimated delivery is October 2022, so this year in October. And the way that we've been laying out our fulfillment strategy is we are offering basically a certain limited quantity at a month intervals that we can fulfill, assemble, quality control, test, package, ship, and then we will go to the next month. So while this early bird reward that's currently up is October 2022, once we run out of that reward, the next one will be November 2022 and so on, so that we can ensure that we get these to you on time, and even if orders continue to come in, they are not overwhelming, but it's sequential. And with that, I think we'll wrap up for today.
Yeah.
So again, the stretch goals will be live here very soon on the Kickstarter page. Please go ahead and share it with anyone you haven't shared it with yet. Let them know that the Rotary module is coming, hopefully sooner than planned if we can reach that goal and expand our team. Thanks so much for staying with us today on the Q&A and asking all the great questions.
Yeah.
And have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, guys, so much. Make sure to check out our YouTube channel for all of the latest project videos that we've been posting, and stay tuned as we are going to be posting more projects. Have a fantastic rest of the week, and thank you guys for joining.